So I want to welcome you today to the Librarians Talk Tuesday about growing readers with your library partners. We're going to start, as we always do, with ASD's mission and values. And a reminder of why we're here today, to talk about how we can promote reading among children and young people. And really, specifically today, our conversation is about pleasure reading and the role that the libraries and parents can play in that. So, first of all, these are our library guiding statements, which are related to the school's guiding statements, but what we're really focusing on today is encouraging students to become lifelong readers by promoting a love of reading. So this is the part of our job. We do other things. We teach a lot of research lessons and inquiry lessons, but really today this is about promoting reading for fun, reading for pleasure. And we're going to introduce ourselves. So as they come up, I'm Linda Hoyseth. I am the high school librarian. This is my second year here at ASD. It's my 30th-ish year in international teaching. And I came previously from Delhi and before that Doha. And I'm currently reading a book called White Smoke by Tiffany Jackson, which is a classic young adult horror story perfect for Halloween.
I'm Nadine Bailey. I've just come here from the Western Academy of Beijing, so I'm new to Dubai, but not new to librarianship. I've been a teacher librarian for the last 8 years, and I am loving being in the middle school because that's a really critical year for reading for young people. And I have just finished Every Sad Story is Untrue, and it was amazing.
My name is Julie Jones. I am one of the elementary school librarians. I've been here for 5 years and crouching up to my 20th year in education in the classroom and the library. So I'm currently reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was on a bestseller list and yeah, it's okay so far. So we'll see.
Hello, my name is Catherine Mulry. I am starting my 11th year here at ASD. I was a grade 2 teacher for 10 years, and I'm joining the library team for my first year, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of the team. I am re-listening to the audiobook of Braiding Sweet Grass, because every time I listen to it, I find like new little golden nuggets that I love.
And we're supported in the libraries by Mersey, Sana, and Carol in the middle school and high school library, and Nandana and Rolana in the elementary school library. So why is reading important? Why are we here today? There are decades and decades of research about the importance of reading, but especially about the importance of free voluntary reading or independent reading. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. Stephen Krashen has led a lot of this research, but we're really going to talk about the benefits of reading, choice reading, reading whatever you want to choose.
Okay. So why bother to read? Now, there's been a lot of research into this, and many people are not aware that besides the usual of growing your vocabulary and being a well-read person, actually helps with the reduction of stress, much more than other activities that like watching television or playing computer games. So I often tell students, in the evenings, put away your electronics and read a book. It will relax you and it will help you sleep better. Of course, it will help you with your vocabulary and with academics, but the other thing it also helps you with, which a lot of people don't know, is that it helps you become a more empathetic person because you identify with the characters in the book, even characters who are not like you, and it helps you build empathy. It also helps children feel a lot less lonely and isolated. And it can help social skills because children can see in books the way that other people behave and then pass judgment within that context about whether they think that's an appropriate or inappropriate way of behaving. There is tons of research, and we've provided some for you. It helps with connecting the different cortical areas in the brain for language and mentalizing, so it doesn't matter what language you're reading in, which is really important for multilingual, multicultural environments such as ours. And again, the whole thing about social ability. So it's not just librarians saying this, people are actually doing brain imaging and finding out that it's a really good empathy builder. We're now going to talk a little bit about growing readers from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade.
Thank you. So early literacy is so important. So even from the time when kids are developing, the language that they hear is going to really help their literacy skills. So thinking just from basic board books, a lot of times parents or caregivers ask, like, what can we do at home? So one thing is, like, always read with enthusiasm and expression, but then also just looking at the pictures and reading the pictures in different ways and using a lot of those different learning skills. So if you're reading this book, you could be counting the number of garbage bins and identifying the different colors on the page and repeating it again and again and again. Adding sound effects. As kids get older, they'll want to read a lot of the same books again. Currently, our pre-K classes are loving Pete the Cat, a lot of them. They're checking all of our books out again and again and again. High contrast color books are also really engaging, like The Watermelon Seed by Greg Pizzoli. Kids will start to notice the repetition of words like chomp, chomp, chomp. Starting to pay attention as you're reading aloud to books, the punctuation and modeling that. So much of literacy and reading with young learners is modeling the behaviors that we would want them to eventually develop. So as the caregiver or teacher or librarian, we can be showing what that looks like. Changing our voice to match the characters of the book as well. In Pete the Cat, we can be using colors and also making predictions. So in Pete the Cat, I love my white shoes. He starts with white shoes and then is on a pile of strawberries. And then what's going to happen next? What do you think will happen? The reader can make a prediction. You talk about it. Oh, they turn red. And then also thinking about books can also really help us understand our emotions better as humans and learners. So modeling and learning from what characters did. If we would want to do the same thing here, Pete doesn't cry over it. He just kind of moves on. And then in the next page, he sings the song about loving his new red shoes. So we can also use the characters' actions as teaching points as to what we want the learner to experience. It might be an example of maybe what not to do or something to do. So books can really guide us in different ways. As students age, the text complexity is going to get longer and more complicated, so we can be guiding them through those stages through the book choices that we choose. So from picture books, there's complex picture books that are relevant for all ages, high school, everything. But in like 1st to 2nd grade, students will start to be thinking about early reader, early chapter picture books where they're learning to comprehend. They've kind of mastered those decoding skills and they're getting stronger, so they're starting to pay attention to text across books. They're looking for those snap words that they can read automatically. They're learning to read across lines, paying attention to punctuation, and we can be guiding them through all of these things. So thinking where sentences end, reading longer sentences that break across lines, paying attention to that punctuation again, which then helps them to think about how the characters would sound in their books. Then as they continue to develop, the books get slightly longer, slightly more complex. The pictures aren't always matching the words. So any high engagement things, a lot of these books featured today are series books. That's a great way to hook a young reader, and they're fiction today just for the sake of time, but it's so important to read a variety. Books can help us see different feelings. Sometimes they'll be told, like the character was happy or worried. Later on, the students or the readers will have to infer that information. Books get more complicated. So in this book, Katie Boo, The Big Lie, there's different times. And this is a book where she's out of character. Usually she's a really honest person, but she steals her classmates' plane and lies about it. So how do you do that? It also has flashbacks in time. So in chapter 2, you go back to earlier in the day. So learning how to navigate plots that have different timelines is something that also is helpful. And the caregivers, we can guide them through that. Oh, did you notice this detail? Did you notice the chapter? It says Katie's bad bra. Like, what does that mean? So learning how to read the whole text. And then as they're at end of grade 2, they're really reading in those longer chapter books that are more complex. These are things that like I work on with students, caregivers you can work on. These are the types of things you could be modeling as you're reading together side by side, or you're reading a page and they're reading a page, to just promote that joy of reading as well.
So upper elementary from 3 to 5, the big thing to focus on is a variety in reading diet. So looking at nonfiction, cookbooks, fiction, biographies, and still capturing that love of picture books with creepy carrots. It's also really important to include graphic novels in the choice for visual literacy, and I think Nadine's going to get more into that. But as a caregiver, parent, like that term, a lot of times you'll see students rereading the same book or the same series or the same author, and that is absolutely okay. I know I don't go home and read Shakespeare. I go back to my favorite reads, and that is what good readers do. I pulled some data from our checkouts, our circulations, to see what our upper level readers in elementary school were reading. And you can see that they're reading graphic novels, realistic fiction, and fantasy. So if you're looking for some areas of suggestions or recommendations, or looking at the bookstore, those are some of the most popular series or genres to look at. This READ acronym comes from a study which is linked later on in this presentation. I think it's going to be shared out. I hope it's going to be shared out for you. But it's a way to encourage reading across your family and making it a routine or a ritual, whether it's at the table, at bedtime, a conversation that happens. You want to show your children that everybody reads for pleasure and enjoyment. Your environment, where you pick up audiobooks, ebooks, picture books, chapter books around the house, helps encourage that love of reading. Accessing anything and everything, whether it's cookbooks, directions on how to exit an airplane, sheet music, everything will help build those literacy skills. And conversation matters, especially when we start talking about middle school and high school. Books are a way in to have a conversation with your son, with your daughter, with your child. So, secondary.
Okay. So these are a few statistics from last year. And as you can see, grade 6, we start with all enthusiasm and things kind of go slumpy and then pick up and then decline in the exam years. And that's perfectly normal. I think those statistics hold up worldwide as well. The other part of the research is that we have to bear in mind is with the age gap comes the realization amongst students that when they are not strong readers, reading is a real struggle, and it continues to get harder and harder as they become overwhelmed with the pure volume of what they have to read. And that becomes self-reinforcing that it's hard, so they don't want to do it, so they spend less time doing it. And poor readers, they just improve at a super slow pace, whereas good readers improve at a fast pace. And this was a survey done during the COVID years. Everyone got extremely worried about what was going to happen. And what happened was that students who were already good readers, they read more, did better, and increased the spiral up, and the motivation to read and went up. And those who didn't have enjoyment in reading and were struggling in reading, read less, spent more time perhaps on playing games and on computers and all that kind of thing. They have a negative attitude to school because it's a struggle and the whole thing declines. And this morning in the New York Times there was a survey or results now of the COVID years and what it's done in terms of math and literacy, and it seems that this bears out in the US as well, that it's had devastating effects amongst the students who need it the most as well. So, audiobooks or reading, I do want to just say literature comes in many forms and storytelling comes in many forms. In many countries there's a strong storytelling tradition. What reading is about is it's conveying information and it's telling stories, and that can be done in many different ways. Audiobooks are just one form, and they've done these brain scans, and it doesn't matter whether you're actually reading the book or listening to the book, it's got the same impact neurologically, which is very interesting. A link to our source for audiobooks, Sora, so people can get signed up there. And the other thing I do want to make a plug for are graphic novels. They are actually quite difficult to read. They're not the old jughead comments that we may have read as children. They are actually extremely sophisticated. And last year in our school, for the first time, we did a literature study of a comic book called The New Kid. And the teachers reported back, they selected it because they thought it would be an easy option for students coming back into reading a full novel after being out for COVID. It's an excellent book. It's about a kid going into grade 6, into a new school, and he is a child of color, but he's too light to be part of the black kids, and he's too dark to be part of the white kids. And there are all these microaggressions going on, so in a multicultural environment, it's super important. Teachers reported back it was the hardest book that they'd ever had to give students to read, because they had to read on 2 levels. They had to read the text, and they also had to read everything that was being inferred by the images. And the author very cleverly put all the microaggressions into the images. So the students were reading a normal-ish story about a kid going to school, and in all the images you're seeing all the little things that kids are so sensitive to, and that happen in our classrooms and in our advisory groups and in the playgrounds, that sometimes even as adults we don't see, and they're hyper aware of it. And this book just brought it down fantastically. Sapiens, I don't know if any of you have read Sapiens. It's a huge, big pill on the history of mankind. Books like that, we have this in Sora as well, in 2 volumes as a graphic novel. It just makes it so much more accessible to everybody. So our social studies kids are getting extra credit for reading Sapiens in any form of either the full book or the graphic novels. Cells at Work, another brilliant book. The body cells are all depicted as characters in a manga comic, and you read about what happens in your body when you get sick, or when you eat the wrong foods, or when you do exercise. And it's so much easier to see what's going on, and it's fully scientific, but very accessible. And here was another research done during COVID to have a look at digital comics for online learning in science, so in the STEM, and their conclusion was digital comics do help cognitive learning outcomes. So another study on that. Another thing I want to plug, and that Linda and I are busy building the collection in our secondary school, is what we call sophisticated picture books. And these could be even books with absolutely no words, down to books with words, and they are very important for social emotional learning. Here we have a book called Small Things, and it's about a young boy who is suffering from anxiety, and you can actually see the anxiety eating away at him, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and he thinks he's the only person with this anxiety, and then he has a conversation with his sister, and then suddenly he notices around him that so many other people are also suffering from anxiety, and he tries to get help. But a spread like this can be used in so many different ways as an opening for discussion. It can be used for writing prompts. It can be used to help students suffering from anxiety see how somebody else is resolved their issues.
So when I show that graph to high school students about checkouts, and I ask the students, why do you think that is? Of course, the biggest answer is time, right? As students get into middle school and high school, and they're busier and they're more involved, and they say that they don't have time to read. And so that's one of the battles that we as educators and as parents and caretakers are trying to fight. But there are kids who still love to read. And when we have conversations with them about, you are a reader, what were the things that you used to read before? And they get so excited as they talk about Dr. Seuss and Diary of a Wimpy Kid and all those things. And so we need to remind them of what kind of readers they are. But also, we can tap into social media. Our most popular book in the library, besides our author visit books, is The Summer I Turned Pretty, because it's a Netflix show, right? So we can't keep those copies in. Book talk is a thing, so there are some influencers on TikTok who talk about books, and so kids come in and start, when more than one kid comes in and starts asking about Colleen Hoover, as what happened last year, we realize that it's happening on TikTok, and so that's where they're getting ideas. And then the nostalgia reads. When we invite students to come back into classes, they like to go back to Amulet or things that they read as a kid, and that's okay, right? We're trying to reinstill that love of reading. And then, of course, as all things teenagers, their friends likely have more influence than us. But what we can do is provide modeling and time, right? So as a family, we can say, even if it's just 10 minutes before you turn out your lights tonight, we're all going to read. We're going to turn off the television or the laptops or the whatever, and we are going to read together. Because once they get caught up in story again, they remember how much they love it. And we can tell by talking to students whose families place an emphasis on reading and taking the time to do it still in high school and in middle school, and who maybe is not putting that much emphasis on it. And it makes a difference in all those other things we talked about in the beginning. So, our library program at ASD, we promised you a little bit of information about that. So Kathy's going to tell us about the elementary school.
So the elementary school is designed on a responsive cycle, so most grades will come within a 12-day cycle. We have grade 1 and grade 2 coming every once in the 6-day cycle because of their developmental range, the length of the text that they're using. We just find that it matches well. So the librarians work with the classes and will teach them different skills at that time. But then we're also flexible. So Ms. Jones and I are bookable. Teachers can ask us for resources, so we're constantly curating batches of books and electronic resources that we'll share with teaching teams, that we'll share directly with students, hosting additional lessons, collaborating with our colleagues in different grade levels, and then also supporting parents too. So if there's anything that you need, come into the library during our open access time and we can help that way too.
And in the middle school and high school, we are a completely flexible schedule. So middle school students come in often with their English language arts classes to choose books, but also with their other courses, social studies, science, to do research, that kind of thing. And their students are welcome to come to the library on their own before school and after school and at lunchtime. So you will see our libraries are very busy at those times of day especially. High school students, same thing. So sometimes their teacher brings them in less frequently for checking out books than for research in the high school. But that still happens as well. And then they have the before school time, their lunch and win time, their after school time, and their study block. And so we are so happy this year that our libraries, because the COVID restrictions are gone, our libraries are open. And you will see, sometimes we have 100 kids at lunchtime in the library. So they have a lot of access to the library. As parents, you are welcome in the libraries before school. So these are the library hours, but you can see for both of our libraries, parents are welcome from 7:45 to 8:15. Julie, this is supposed to be your slide.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Parents, it's open from 7:45 to 8:15 in the mornings right now. For students, we're open in the morning and after school, both in elementary and in high school, as well as during lunch. Did I miss something?
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Take your
okay.
slide.
Here are some QR codes for our different sites and resources. LibGuides is where we are hosting most of our information. Our new, get out of the way here. Instead of a website, it's a LibGuide. And Sora is our ebook, audiobook platform, as well as an online catalog for both the elementary school and the middle school, high school. We have QR codes as well at the back if you haven't signed up for a library account or it's been a few years since you've been on campus. We're updating all our parent records so that we want to make sure you can check out books too.
Is it special events? Yes. Okay, so we do have some big events coming up this year. So we are having a book fair. We're working with a new company called, new to us, Early Starters, and it's going to be an early childhood to adult book fair. The week of December 5th through 9th, there's lots of exciting things happening on campus that week as well. There's some a holiday thing from the PTSA, and there's a concert. So it will be open in the evenings also. So for the elementary students, folders will be sent home so that you can send cash with the students to buy books. For middle school and high school, we'll handle that on our own. Books in English and in Arabic, it's going to be set up in the courtyard area at Gate 1. So we're really excited about this. It'll be bigger and better than ever. We have author visits back. We're so excited about. They're both going to be the same week, February 27th to March 3rd. Tracy Baptiste is going to be speaking to the elementary school students, and Neil Schusterman to the middle school and high school students. And obviously we have their books in our libraries on Sora. And so when we're done, if you'd like to ask some questions or talk about the kinds of things that they write, we'd be happy to do that. And we're having our first ever used book swap and sale. So how this will run is in the weeks leading up to it, you can bring in good quality books to donate. For every 3 books you bring in, you get 1 coupon for a free book on the day of the swap, or the days of the swap. And then there will also be books for sale, and then we have plans for rehoming the other books. So this is really a reduce, reuse, recycle kind of initiative. And questions?
Do you have any questions?
For us?
Yes. I noticed first graders and second graders go to the library in the 6-day cycle.
Yes.
It doesn't happen for older kids. My son has been in the library only twice since the school started, so I think 12 days is too long. It's not enough. Maybe they could go in once in the 6 days cycle. Is it possible, or there's not enough space?
It's
or-
possible. We're trying to, with the upper grades, offer students access to the library when they need it. So when they finish their books, they can come in. Teachers can reach out to me or book extra book exchange times in the library so they can send students in small groups. So I can target those students that may be high flyers or need support with extra book recommendations. So it's moving, they need more access to book exchanges, but not necessarily a structured lesson, because when it was a 6-day cycle, the older students were just rushing around and returning books that weren't quite finished yet because they are longer reads. So trying to move towards teachers accessing the library for research, bringing classes in. So in order to do that, be more flexible, we had to move away from the once every 6 days just to exchange books. So was it your son or daughter?
Yes, it's not that he has any particular interest in going to the library
Right.
every week.
Right,
You know,
right.
but I thought about the exposure, just
Of course.
to get more exposed to more titles, have more opportunities.
So, yeah, and some
It's okay,
teachers.
It's not
yeah.
that he's eager.
No, of course. And so I've talked to a 5th grade teacher, and she's booking in time tomorrow to send groups of 5 students at a time, so I can recommend and really get down on the individual level with those students that may be a little bit more reluctant, as opposed to a whole class of 20. It's harder for me to, and my library staff, to get to everybody. So that's the philosophy. And of course, always email me, reach out. I'd love to work with your son.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, he asked for books in Spanish, and one of you pulled
Yes.
out some books in Spanish, and
Yes.
he brought home one of them. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for looking around.
Of course, and that's part of our budget concern and our ordering as well, is to get more world languages into our libraries. So we just pulled there's a stack of Spanish books that are being relabeled. So, yeah, happy to help find those.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Other questions?
Book recommendations for middle school students and high school students, and also I wonder if, especially middle school students, do they know if they're available on the library website? There's a book recommendation list.
Yes, so on our library guide, we do in fact have a reading page, and on that page we have recommendations for grade 6, 7, and 8. And I make a lot of slides which are shown in the middle school corridors of books. So when they're walking past, they can see recommendation books, and our English language arts students come in quite regularly, either in small groups or with the whole class. I need to get back soon, in fact, for a grade 7 class which is coming in. And I'm always walking around when I see students. Last time, like, how can I help you? What can we recommend to you? And I also try to get them to recommend to their peers. So I've started now asking them to just stand up for a minute and say what they've loved reading since the last time they were in the library, because they listen to each other more than they listen to us. For the middle school, the other thing I would say, I have 2 children. They are in university. I had a brilliant reader and a reluctant reader. My son, we still read to him when he was finishing his IB exams. In fact, I think he wouldn't have read any of his set words if it wasn't for the fact we read them to him. And he had a very long fallow years of not reading himself when we were literally reading aloud to him. And now he's in university and he's finally started reading, so it's all paid off. But we did have to be very persistent. We used a lot of audiobooks, so every long journey we would listen to audiobooks as a family in the car. So a literature-rich environment doesn't always mean that they are physically reading. Sometimes you have to help them do the heavy lifting. But it will pay off eventually.
We last spring created a summer reading lib guide, and so there's also a list of, there's pages for each of the divisions and then lists of places for recommended reading. We hesitate to say these are the books that every 8th grader should read, right? That, because our whole thing, our whole philosophy is that they should be reading what they want to read. And so the key is to find the right source and links for them, and we are happy to help. And as parents and caregivers, if you have a question, you know, if you say, I need help finding something for my child, give us some information and we'll customize recommendations for you.
Now, my first question to the student would always be, what are you interested in outside of being in the library? And what did you read last that you really remembered enjoying? So we will start the conversation like that and try and pick up from where they may have left off as readers. Or if they're passionate about football, we've got lots of football books. And if they're passionate about bicycles, we've got bicycle books. And it doesn't matter what they're reading as long as they keep reading.
Other questions?
It's unfortunate that the parents can't access the library now, apart from the morning session, and I know lots and lots of parents are disappointed. You know, we used to be in the library a lot, especially like after school, after Talk Tuesday. Many times I would just pop in, you know, search for books, but in school, high school, elementary libraries, so we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, so
after school, you know, we stay and do some homework, read together.
we, during the school day, we feel very strongly that students deserve to have a safe space to learn, and that means learning away from parents' eyes, right? Like so that they don't feel uncomfortable with their parents or somebody else's parents in the learning space during the day. So that's why we have the time before school. And after school, honestly, it's a matter of we don't have enough adults to cover the space to keep them open after school. That is something that we are talking about and considering, but at the moment we can't do it. But before school, you're welcome there. And during the day, we want the kids to have some private learning time, just as we wouldn't have parents be in classrooms. Other questions? Okay, we do, can we share this slideshow with the link? So the slideshow will be on the Talk Tuesday page. Is that, so these are some of our references. The links that we put in there are live. We can put up the QR code page. Most of us can stick around for a few minutes and answer your questions. We brought some books. If you have not signed up for a library account, you can do that with us, and we're happy to have an informal conversation. Thank you so much for coming.